Liberia is also joining the fray, with experts saying it has a lot of potential. Already, companies like Repsol and Tullow Oil have set up shop, and earlier this month, U.S. oil major Chevron said it would start exploration off the Liberian coast. For more, I'm joined by Mr. Hassan, the founder of Simba Energy, a company that currently operates in Liberia. Hassan, thank you so much for being with us today on CNBC Africa. Why Liberia?
We went there looking for natural resource projects a few years ago and found an opportunity where we saw the offshore basin creeping onshore. Applied with the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and they were gracious enough to grant us the first ever hydrocarbon onshore reconnaissance permit.
And when was this? How long ago was this when you first visited Liberia?
Early 2007.
So this is a fairly recent area of focus of the oil industry. What unique opportunities does Liberia present to investors, when compared to other places that are up and coming, like Uganda, for example?
Well, Uganda, they found a lot of oil, and there's a lot of major companies, trying to get ground and develop. They found they're going, I think, into some small production test wells this year. Liberia is, I think, where Uganda was several years ago. It's brand new. They are just about to start drilling offshore Liberia, so it's very exciting for us because we could almost see the rigs from where we are on our onshore property. And it's the early first mover advantage, I think, for anyone that comes into Liberia right now.
So it's still at the very early stages, but already it seems like a lot of companies, a lot of global companies are really moving quite fast. You've mentioned already a couple like Repsol, Tullow Oil, Chevron. I understand that Chevron has the rights to drill in an area that is adjacent to where you've set up shop as well. Is there any way that we can get an indication, a quantifiable indication of how much oil there is actually there?
No, not yet, except just north of the Liberian-Sierra Leone border, Tullow hit a large discovery about a year ago, and I think that was the impetus for the super majors like Chevron to come in. We're very excited because Chevron has farmed into 3 offshore blocks directly in front of our onshore permit area, which we think validates what we have found as far as oil seeps go onshore. And we're really looking forward to having these large companies around us begin their exploration programs.
Now, you yourself have visited Liberia on many occasions. I wonder, you mentioned something interesting, which is that this is the beginning. Liberia is where Uganda was a few years ago. So it's a good thing for investors in one sense, but how can Liberia itself benefit from this and make sure that it doesn't make the same mistakes that other African countries committed in sort of, shall we say, managing its oil resources in a mutually beneficial way, especially that this is a country that is still sort of recovering from civil unrest?
Well, I think the fact that Chevron came in and farmed in, along with Tullow Anadarko in the last couple of years, offshore Liberia, I think is a great validation of the government and the direction.
Confidence in the government?
Great
and the stability, is that what you mean?
I think so. I think they see a lot of potential like we do in the Liberian people. We have a Liberian office staffed 100% by Liberians. They're very, very capable people. And I think a lot of African countries are very aware of what happened with especially the Nigerian model, and I think they're all nervous about not going down that route. And I think democracy is taking hold, and I really feel that in the long term the world has changed in Africa. We don't have the Soviet West sort of client states. We have a lot of countries who are getting into the game, and they're at the mercy of investors. And to keep investors happy, I think they need transparency and democracy and the rule of law. And Liberia is certainly going down that route. Ghana's gone down that route. I think Uganda has gone down that route. Time will tell, but it's hard to say. But I think Liberia is well on the way to a strong recovery.
And what kind of timescale are we talking about here? It doesn't sound like anybody's actually started drilling for oil yet.
No, I think the first rigs are due any time offshore Liberia. I believe there's 3 wells that will be drilled in the next year in the 3 northern blocks. I think Chevron's committed to doing some work in the last quarter of this year, the first quarter of next year. And as soon as we finalize our production sharing agreement, we will begin to shoot seismic and and go down the road to doing some serious exploration.
And Hassan, can I ask you about the new reality that we're living in today, these fears of a double-dip recession that we're seeing clearly weighing on the oil price? The prices today are nowhere near the highs that we had seen, you know, a couple of years back, the $100 oil. You know, some people are saying that that's well and done. Given the fact that we're trading in the kind of 75 below $80 a barrel price range, what does this mean for companies like yourselves as you embark on these new expansions? Well,
we don't follow the oil price day to day. We're explorers. Our job is to go out and find the oil. I think we have a long-term view. Exploration is a long-term process. The global demand for oil keeps growing every year. In the short term, if we do have a double-dip recession, it will recover. You've got China and India all over Africa. They need the resources. They need the oil. The United States, even though it's in a recession, needs the oil. It doesn't have enough reserves of its own. So in the long term, on our business plan, which is several years from beginning to end in the exploration and development process, the daily, weekly, monthly oil price doesn't affect us. Oil was at 147 because it was in a bubble. There was a lot of speculation. I think we're more of a realistic supply-demand sort of a situation with the price right now. And if it goes down a little bit, that's fine. But you know, in the long term, we know there's a lot of demographics built into a higher oil price in the future. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us, and we hope that you come and visit us again when things get going in Liberia. It's a pleasure to have you. Hassan Hassan is the founder of Simba Energy, a company currently operating in West Africa and with operations in Liberia.